Association of Medical Research Institutes and is an alliance between the University of South Australia and Carlin, in particular SA Pathology. So this partnership between UniSA and Carlin marries the power of fundamental discovery research that's done at universities and in medical research institutes with clinical insight to clinical problems, access to clinical samples, and the ability to rapidly translate the outcomes of our research for patient benefit. So the Centre for Cancer Biology comprises 20 research teams. We study many different aspects of cancer biology and many different kinds of cancers, including breast cancer, blood cancers, and brain cancer. And our researchers really do amazing things in this space. So to give you a little bit of background into me and how I've arrived in this position and my research vision going forward, I grew up and went to school in Port Lincoln and then embarked on a Bachelor of Science at the University of Adelaide. My passion for research stimulated me to undertake a PhD at the University of Adelaide, and after that time I embarked on postdoctoral training in the United States. I spent this time at St Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, which is one of the premier children's cancer research hospitals in the world. And this was a really formative time for me as a researcher. It stimulated my current research program, but it also really demonstrated to me how excellent cancer research is done and the impact that it has for patients. After this time, I returned to Adelaide to establish my independent research program at the Centre for Cancer Biology, and that was in 2005. My research program is focused on lymphatic vessels and how these vessels are built during development and how they go wrong in human diseases, including cancer. So the cancer biology environment and research environment in Adelaide is a really strong one. I really welcome this opportunity to speak to you today. I see the establishment of Adelaide University as a transformative opportunity for this state, and particularly for the research environment, which is what I'm most well equipped to speak to you about today. So I look forward to any questions that you might have.
Questions from members?
You can go first, sir.
Sure. I'll ask a question that I asked, a very similar one to the union. You may have a different conclusion based on what we've just heard. But the significant claims by the proponents, the Vice-Chancellors, the Premier, talk about the nature of Australia's university research sector, Commonwealth funding, and the claim is made that the combined universities' scale would be the condition that would enable it to bring in some, I don't know what the appropriate term is, top-level academics that would sit in that top echelon, that their published papers, their reputation would lead to increased research grants, and that would be a significant factor in lifting the ranking of the university, which would also make it more appealing for international students. Do you have a view? I apologise if I've summarised the Premier's comments poorly, but I think that's the vibe. Do you have a view on whether that's a fair representation of the Australian government's research environment?
I agree with that concept, but what I would say is that I don't think that our research capability will be elevated simply by recruiting in new people. I think our research capability will be elevated through the power of putting together researchers from two outstanding research institutions in UniSA and the University of Adelaide. And what I mean by that is that we can build more complete research pipelines. If I use cancer research as an example, the Centre for Cancer Biology has an extremely strong discovery research program, and without discovery, we don't have anything to translate. The University of Adelaide is highly complementary in that they are also strong in discovery research and particularly strong in clinical translation. So if we put those two groups of people together, automatically we build critical mass, we build a stronger and more complete research pipeline, and we enhance the capacity for us to achieve bigger research outcomes. That is, we can ask bigger research questions and we can answer them by pooling together resources, working together in a multidisciplinary nature, and being more competitive at the get-go for national and international funding opportunities. So automatically, by putting the people we already have here in this state together, who are excellent, is an enhanced capacity to bring in more research income, which is the first step in strengthening that research pipeline. The best want to work with the best. So ultimately, by enhancing the strength of our research, we can attract more students, bringing more money into the university system, more money into the research pipeline, strengthening our research and our ability.
How does the focus on research that you're obviously very passionate about sit alongside the desire to maximise opportunities to bring in students from all backgrounds for the opportunity to be taught? Are they competing or sympathetic goals?
Look, I don't think they're competing goals. I think they're goals that really enhance one another. So building a stronger research pipeline and the goal of establishing a new university is that research enhances the curriculum, that the students at the new university will have an enhanced awareness and exposure to research, that actually enhances their student experience and builds students who are more well equipped at the end of their research degrees to go into the workforce. It also builds research culture, and that strengthens research. So it's a self-perpetuating culture that is, I believe, fantastic for students and fantastic for research.
I have other questions, but I'm happy for colleagues
to supplement you on that. Is there any suggestion that under a merger you wouldn't be able to do exactly what you've just described?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Without a merger, we wouldn't be able to do that. We already are working towards it. So, and particularly, again, I speak with regard to the cancer research space. We're working very closely with our colleagues at the University of Adelaide and also with colleagues at Flinders. Scientists are collaborative, so we collaborate with the best people to answer the question, and that enhances student capability. So we all train research students. Often research students come from other universities to Centre for Cancer Biology to undertake postgraduate research, for example. But it's something that we really want to strengthen in a new university. I think it's an opportunity to do that.
Just follow on while we're on the same topic. So I've had some conversations in the last month or so with some academics from eastern states universities, and they've all said that scale is important when it comes to research dollars.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that South Australia probably at the moment doesn't attract its share of the research funding. Do you think this would be enhanced and we would be more likely to draw in more research funding in a larger university created from the merger?
Yes, I would agree with that statement, and it's a goal that we have should the new university be established. Absolutely, we see that ability to be more competitive for research funding. Also that by having more critical mass, we have more opportunity for translation, both for patient benefit, but for commercialisation of our research, and the ability to attract industry to Adelaide and partner with industry to commercialise research, and the ability to attract clinical trials as well. So I do think, and it's something that's been of concern to us in recent years, that South Australians' share of research funding is not where we would hope it would be, and we see that building of critical mass as an opportunity to achieve that.
Thank you.
Member for Adelaide.
Thank you. And Professor, just as a country kid who also went to uni, I congratulate you on doing that and all that you've achieved.
Thank you.
So I guess my question is around for people, for everyday South Australians, what does this mean? What are the outcomes of getting in those extra research dollars and getting outcomes? What does it mean for just everyday South Australians?
It means that we can answer bigger questions in a more effective and multidisciplinary way. That means our research should have more impact. Again, if I refer to the cancer research space, it's better outcomes for patients. It's the ability to develop targets that can be put into clinical trials. It's the ability to commercialise our research and have more money coming into the South Australian economy. It's the opportunity to train students in the very best research that they can do anywhere in the world. So I see it as being great for students, great for research, great for patients, great for our economy, and great for South Australia in general.
Member for Gibson.
You talk about the opportunities that present themselves, and I assume there's been some discussion in your teams about what the future might look like. Are you able to speak on behalf of the members of your teams about what they're hoping this might bring?
Yes, I am. So I've had discussions with the research team leaders at the Centre for Cancer Biology, as well as scientists more widely throughout the University of South Australia, and with the cancer researchers at the University of Adelaide. And we really feel that pooling research strengths, again, enables us to answer bigger questions, strengthens our capacity to train brilliant students, strengthens capability and opportunity for translation to the clinic and to commercialise our research, and to build the infrastructure that really underpins what we can do. So to be competitive in big schemes that bring in really big dollars to this state enable us to establish the facilities that mean we can do exactly what people in the Parkville precinct in Melbourne can do, and what people in Harvard can do. So we want to be competitive, not just nationally, but internationally. We really strive to be the best in our field.
Member for Flora.
Thank you. I wanted to, we talked about the macro level, but I just want to really come down to the micro. So, I mean, you're a researcher who's been all around the world. You've worked in a variety of institutions. Is it your evidence to the committee that this proposal will be a positive for the work that you do at the university?
Yes, it will. Science and research really thrives on stimulation and a stimulating environment. And I think by building our research capability and critical mass, that we'll be able to do better research than we can currently do. I strongly believe that.
The Honourable Ms. Benares.
Just by way of supplementary and perhaps the macro level, and you may not wish to answer this, Professor Harvey, but if we're talking basic principles, can you see what you've articulated today applying more broadly across the spectrum when it comes to that competition and when it comes to scale and so forth, not just in the areas that obviously you're key in, but do you think that's what the benefits are of what's being proposed, that everybody's looking at it from that perspective in terms of what it can provide for them when they're competing, particularly with the other jurisdictions and so forth? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a principle in discussions with many people in the university that we're really embracing. And I've been a member of several working groups across both universities in work that's been done to underpin the feasibility study. And what has struck me about all of those conversations is about how positive and collegial they've been, and how people are really seeing this as an opportunity not simply to merge and make 1 and 1 equal 2. It's about aspiration and it's about synergy. This is an opportunity to regroup and say, well, what does optimal look like that really enables us to generate better outcomes for students, researchers and our community? And that to me is really the point of difference, that aspiration. And do you, sorry, Chair, just one final one, just by way of supplementary again, just in terms of international intakes, and obviously we've seen that fall over during COVID and the impacts that can have on the universities.
But do you think longer term there needs to be a more articulate strategy by the universities, with or without a merger, because they won't necessarily be able to always rely on that overseas intake of students, and they basically need to be able to sustain themselves without being overly reliant on that.
Overly reliant. I think that was a lesson that was very clearly taught during COVID. I think clearly we want to attract brilliant people from all over the world to the new Adelaide University. But regardless of that, we really want to make this a brilliant university for South Australia and for South Australians. And one of the very positive things to me is making this new university even more accessible to more members of our community. I think there's a strong emphasis and focus on that, which I think is fantastic.
And we always talk about the brain drain in South Australia. In your area, do you think that this is something that, well, I'm sure it's intended to facilitate or reduce that, but do you think that is an issue that we have here in South Australia that needs addressing in your area and more generally?
Yes, absolutely. It's by no means a possibility or a figment of imagination. It's very real. And in the case of people who go overseas, we encourage all of our best students to go overseas, train with the best people in the world, develop the best skills they can, and we hope they'll come back, but they don't always. They'll go on to other brilliant opportunities. So I think we really want to have the level of excellence here that attracts people back. And as a proud South Australian myself, that's been really part of the reason that I've come back to Adelaide, so that we build something here that's world class, and so that we train South Australian students at an international level. Yeah.
Member for Morialta.
Can I ask a context question? I apologise if this was earlier and I missed it, but could you tell us, in relation to you and your team's work, how much of your work is research, and how many students engage with you and your team?
Yeah, so our team and many of us as research group leaders at UniSA teach undergraduate students. We give, we may not necessarily have heavy teaching loads, but we give guest lectures during the year, and then we supervise summer vacation scholarship students, which is a great opportunity for undergraduate students to gain exposure to the research world. Then we supervise honours students and PhD students, both nationally and who come from internationally to work with us. So we engage really closely with students.
And it sort of flows on to one of the key questions that plays on my mind in relation to university culture, and people have raised at various times the competing challenges of having a research-focused university with a university that has such a high reputation as yours does in vocational outcomes and vocational satisfaction for students. And much as I guess the ambition is, if a merger were to go ahead, to build one with excellent research culture and excellent vocational satisfaction, somebody put it to me, the reverse would be a risk. So I guess in your experience, I'm interested to know, how important is culture in any of the institutions you've worked in, and how does a university, if we're considering, let's say we were to support an amalgamation in some form, what role can government play or Parliament play in mitigating that risk of the wrong cultures developing?
Culture is crucially important to any organisation, and also to research, and to me that's largely driven by leadership. So in my opinion, research leaders should be excellent researchers, and they should set the strategy that's ambitious but supportive of their people, and one that has an emphasis on training brilliant students and building research culture. So in my experience at the University of Adelaide and the University of South Australia, I know many outstanding research leaders. I feel very confident that the leadership at both universities is established to build the right culture. I think the right people are in place at the moment to really take advantage of this very exciting opportunity.
Can I ask one more follow-up question, I guess, then? How much of your confidence in relation to the proposed culture then relies on the people that are there at the moment? And I think back to 5 years ago when I was minister, and the last time, 4 years ago, the former Vice-Chancellor of the Adelaide University and the current Vice-Chancellor of UniSA, when that proposal for a merger fell over, they told me that they would continue to work on collaborating in fields of shared endeavour. Yours may well be one of them. And so I guess how much of that cultural question is a risk if leadership were to change between now and 2026? And are there, if there is a desire in the current leadership to collaborate, under current leadership, do you think collaboration could continue and be enhanced even if the merger didn't proceed?
Yes, I do think that would be the case. I think collaboration could continue and be built even if the merger were not to go ahead. I take your point of change in leadership being a risk, but I have every confidence that the leadership at many, many levels in both institutions who I have worked with and have experience with is really committed to making this happen. And right up front, when the whole process of exploring and initiating a feasibility study to creating a new university began more than 6 months ago, the driver there was, even if this new university should not go ahead, that what we should end up with in 6 months' time is something that's more collaborative, a better environment for research to flourish in. And I think I'm confident in the cancer research space that that's the case. But I have every confidence in the leadership teams at multiple levels within the universities that there's not a substantial risk there that it could go pear-shaped if somebody left.
Thank you for your evidence and your work.
The Honourable Ms Game.
Thank you. I just had a question, whether you could comment with regards to research income and the statement that actually having more research income can be a cost to universities because the grants only cover direct costs and there's lots of indirect costs associated with that, and whether that's been your experience.
You bring up a really important point, which is that at the current point in time in Australia, the full cost of research is not funded by grants that are awarded from Category 1 organisations like the NHMRC and ARC. So AMRI has estimated for every dollar that's awarded that the research actually costs an additional 68 cents on top of that dollar. And this is where research support from the universities is incredibly important. And we seek to build that as a university and medical research institution collective across Australia. That's a really important point to be addressed at multiple levels. However, I don't see bringing in more research money as a bigger risk. So in addition to the grant funding that's awarded to us, there's funding that's awarded to the university from the federal government that supplements that grant. So there is additional money coming in. And one of the major goals we have as cancer researchers, but also more broadly across the research environment, is building partnerships with industry to attract industry investment in research and with philanthropic organisations. And in South Australia, we're really fortunate to have incredible philanthropic organisations, including the Hospital Research Foundation, Cancer Council SA, who really supplement the research income to support biomedical research in this state. So I take your point that not all research is funded, but the more we bring in, the better off we'll be.
Thank you.
the member for Adelaide.
Thank you. Professor, around 5.8% of science and innovation workforce is based here. So when you look at South Australia's kind of share, that's around 7,000 jobs short. So do you see the creation of Adelaide University really reversing that and bringing more of those 7,000 that we're currently short into SA?
Yeah, I do see that as an opportunity. I know that the New South Wales and Victorian governments have invested heavily in recent years in health and medical research and innovation and in support for that, and we would welcome that here to our university and health and medical research sector. I think the new university will create more opportunities for innovation in terms both of opportunities to translate and commercialise our research, but also to attract attention and investment from industry partners to really enable that to happen. I certainly see it as an opportunity to build innovation.
Member for Florey.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on something that Marialta asked about in terms of culture and learning. We've heard before about how a new university might be more attractive for overseas students, but I just want to ask you if it's your opinion that a new university will assist in the retention of South Australian students to stay in South Australia to study sort of their honours and PhDs.
Yes, we would hope so. That's definitely a goal, yes. We always welcome our students training overseas, learning with the best of the best in whatever their research field might be. But we certainly see that building the best here will encourage more students to go into postgraduate study and into research careers.
There are no further questions. Thank you, Professor, for your evidence today. It's greatly appreciated.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. And please come and visit us at the Centre for Cancer Biology anytime you'd like to see some cancer research in action. We'd love to have
Be
you.
careful what you wish for.
Thank you, Professor, for that very generous invitation.
Committee excursion?
Members, we might adjourn until 15 minutes past.